Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Ascension Academy podcast. Today, it is my pleasure to welcome back Gillian Bicket, who is a Reiki practitioner, psychic medium, and channeler. And the subject of today's video is going to be preparing for first contact. And first contact is that first moment where we're going to be meeting an ET in person. So this is very exciting. We're going to start with a couple of stories. So Gillian is going to share a story of her first contact. I have a friend who recently had first contact who's given me permission to share her story in more detail. And then we're going to take turns channeling the Galactic Federation and get more information about this whole process of first contact, which is just so exciting to me. So, welcome back, Gillian.
Hi, Lauren. Thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be here again.
Me
It's always
too.
great chatting with you.
Yeah, it's so fun to hang out. And our last episode was preparing for the arrival. And Jilly and I took turns channeling. It was my first time doing a video like that. I've already watched that video a couple times because there's so much info coming through.
Hmm.
So I really
Yeah,
feel the Galactic Federation is here and just wanting to come through, share everything with the audience so that we all can be prepared for this. And if you all have questions, whether it's about this topic or something else you'd want us to ask the Galactic Federation, please leave it in the comments. We'd love to take questions next time.
yeah, that was great. And that will, I'm looking forward to taking questions too. You had asked me to talk about my first contact. You want me to go ahead and start with that?
Yeah, let's hear it.
So I think it was about a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago. I was walking into a grocery store in kind of the Denver metro area, and there was a person standing at the front greeting. I mean, I assumed it was a greeter, and he said, "Hi, can I help you with anything?" And I said, "No, thanks." And then as I left, I was like, "Wow, that was interesting. Like there was something different about that person," but I also realized that I wasn't very friendly. Like I hadn't
Mm,
I was kind of in my zone. Now I'm just going to go get my groceries and get out.
yeah.
And so when I was checking out, I wanted to find him again and just to say, you know, tell him to have a nice day because I felt like I was a little bit short, but I couldn't find him anywhere.
Oh my.
I was like, oh, it's really interesting. I couldn't find him. And I was relaying the story to one of my friends, and they looked at me and said, they don't have greeters at that
Oh.
store. And I said, what? What do you mean? And so then I started thinking more about it and I started checking in, and I realized that I was the only person that saw that being, and that there was something very different about them. I just couldn't, when I was kind of in my zone, I didn't put my finger on it. Um, and then after checking in with like the Galactic Federation, they sort of just chuckle, like, oh yeah, we sent somebody just to say hi.
Wow.
Um, And I had heard of different things like that happening.
Mm-hmm.
So we often might encounter somebody like that, that it isn't that there's something completely different about them, but there's something. They just don't, maybe their energy is different. They don't, something's a little bit off and you can't put your finger on it. Or they're there and then you turn around and they're not there anymore. You're like, wait a minute,
Mm-hmm.
did I even see that? Um, or you ask somebody else, hey, do you see that over there? And they don't see it at all.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that's my little story about running into somebody that was there and then not there, and um, having them be in a position of at that store being a greeter, and then learning later that that store doesn't have greeters
Mm-hmm.
is a good way for the interstellars to put somebody there, because then they can leave quickly or not be there. They can be there and not be there, if that makes sense. If it was an actual checker or
Uh,
somebody
mhm.
doing actual work, it's harder to have them be there and then not be there.
Mm-hmm. So he probably just came for a brief moment just to say hi to you specifically.
hmm Or to check me out. Sometimes they come to check us out.
I've heard that, yeah, those of us that are channeling and working with them to kind of see what we're like and if we're up to par for maybe certain projects that we might join.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
What's your
Cool.
story that you heard about?
Yeah, so mine is very different. And I feel like saying that contact could happen any way. Like there are so many different ways. So my friend had first contact this October 2024. And this was really after, like, both her and I, 1 year of working with teams and training, like, really going out in the field, doing first contact attempts, daily telepathic communication, a lot of energy healing. I'm just kind of doing a very, very light share of all that went into it. I could share more if I feel like called to on this video, but ours was a lot of prep work to intentionally have this experience in first contact, and then to grow upon it, and continue to have more contact in a very planful manner. So I would say that's what was different. Was my friend was going to with an intention of having contact that day. Um, so she was at a park and she was doing a kind of protocol that we've developed with the Federation, and it involves a meditation. Eyes are open, you call them into the space, um, you go into a really deep meditative gaze. And so she'd never seen anyone, right, with this, but the Galactic Federation is saying, all right, this is a way that we can come and actually teleport and visit with you. So she was doing this process and she was out in the woods, and they've shared with us that at least at this point, the woods have the highest vibration, or just nature. Nature has the highest
Mm-hmm.
vibration. And then they've even specified unmanicured nature. So not like where things are mowed and pristine, but just wild has the highest vibration. So she was out there, she was doing her process. So she was meditating with her eyes open, and she sees a woman walk across where she's looking. She sees her walk by, and of course, she's still doing her thing. And she said, just like yours, there was something a little weird about her. There's just something a little off, and she couldn't put her finger on it, but yet she was still focused in her meditation. And so she didn't pay too much attention. But she did notice this woman was wearing a long skirt past her knees, checkered, tucked in blouse, which that was the first thing that she thought was a little odd in the woods. you know, why are you going for a hike like dressed like this? So that was a little odd. She said the woman looked straight forward, and she said she carried herself so well and like almost elegantly that it didn't look like she was in the woods. Usually when we're in the woods, we're like, we look around and we're looking at trees, or we see someone on a trail, we might look at them or say hi. She just walked so perfectly in this outfit that my friend thought it was odd. And so later on, she finished up her practice, which again is to intentionally invite them in, but we had no clue it would look like this. So she finished up and she was going back down the trail, walking towards her truck, and she sees this woman again. They're the only ones in the woods. And this woman is sitting on a log. The log had fallen into the trail, and she was sitting on the log in the trail with her back to my friend. So again, my friend thought, this is just a little odd because usually a human, if you're just taking a break, you'd sit off to the side of the trail. Usually, not in the trail because people are
Mm-hmm.
walking. So she's like, that's a little odd. She said she had such good posture too. And she was just looking straight ahead. Again, just a little odd for being like on a casual hike. So my friend was walking up. So her back, the woman's back was to her. And she just had this feeling like she's waiting for me. You know, she felt that, but thought it was very odd and just dismissed it. And then she walked past her, and the woman was looking down. So you couldn't really see her eyes. So she was purposefully like not making eye contact. And she was doing the technique that we do. And it's a really focus through the eyes. And so my friend could feel it and see it that she was doing this gazing, meditative gazing. And she also telepathically heard, don't talk to me. Don't talk to me. And my friend was like, well, that's odd, you know. She wanted to talk to her because they're the only ones in the woods. And so she just kept walking, and just, thought it was just a woman there because she looked human. And she said a few hours later, when she was home that night, she said it felt like she couldn't stop thinking about this woman. And then we found out later this woman was, telepathically and just kind of impressing her consciousness into her to help her piece it together. And she started thinking, she's like, she was dressed weird, she was walking a certain way, and she pieced it together. She's like, she wasn't human. She came through a portal to visit me. And then we both
Mm-hmm.
channeled Galactic Federation. We got on the phone and we both got confirmation separately that she was from the ship. And sure enough, she'd come through with this technique that we've developed to visit my friend and show herself to her. But we found out later that not having eye contact was very intentional, and that would be a whole nother level of contact. And that this woman is from a species called the Yahyel, who I'd never
Mm-hmm.
heard of, but I guess the Yahyel have very big eyes. So it would look, actually making eye contact with them would be a little different than a human, apparently.
Well, that's so cool.
So
That must have been
amazing.
really thrilling to find out, right?
Oh my God. We were so excited when we pieced it together and then channeled about it. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, so exciting. So different from mine.
Yeah.
But I think that just shows that everybody's experience might be very different. And depending on what interstellar being comes through to you know, and how they're going to show themselves. I have some friends that have other stories that are very different than mine, but I bet um, as this gets out there, more people will come forward to say, "Oh, I've had visitors too, or I've met somebody, or I've encountered someone that was a little bit off, and I wasn't sure, and now
Sure.
I have validation." Yeah,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So would you like to start with some channeling, a message for the collective about this whole first contact process? So afterwards,
sure,
after our
sure.
last video, Jillian and I were hanging out and we're talking about how, the ETs that are coming to meet us are really lowering their vibration. And I don't fully understand what that entails or what that really means. And, us humans are raising our vibration, and Earth is raising her vibration to the fifth dimension, which is why we're starting to come into contact with these other beings, these other species, is because, well, at least the ones that have bodies live in the fifth dimension. fifth dimension and
Mm-hmm.
above. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm just wondering what they would share about what it looks like for them to really lower their vibration, what we're doing to raise our vibration, how we might, just really cultivate a better, whether it's atmosphere or just take steps to prepare for first contact, if that's something that you're desiring. And you may not, but what would they say to that? Or whatever else, whatever other messages they have.
Okay, let's see what they have to say. 1 second here. Greetings, everyone. Yes, we are working on first contact with many of you on Earth. That may look and feel different depending on the being that comes through, depending on your metaphysical abilities, your clairs, which one is strongest for you, is oftentimes how we're going to show up. So they're showing me many different images. Um, it could look like somebody sitting on the end of your bed at night in the dark, and you just perceive a being there. Um, it may look like um, it may look like stars moving in the sky. It may look like energy orbs visually through your eyes or through your camera. Sometimes people see things after they take a picture, like they see it in the picture.
Yes.
Um, it may look like a person that is a little bit different than you, like you guys said before, you couldn't put your finger on it. Um, for instance, somebody might be really tall or really small or move. Um, I'm trying to find the words because they're showing me somebody moving not very smoothly, like
Uh-huh.
jerky a little bit. Um, and they also showed me somebody that had a little bit of like cat-like features, you know?
Cool.
So, and what they're saying they're doing is they're getting us humans ready for full immersion when we get to the fifth dimension, but they want us to get used to the idea and not be scared. And those of us that see them will become ambassadors. Um, we will help others not be so scared or fearful. Um, so these little snippets of beings help the collective not be so fearful of us. We, in turn, have some fear of you because of your violence, your tendency towards violence and weapons. So we are picking and choosing very carefully who we show ourselves to because we also want to be safe. We often prefer natural spaces because the energy interference is less. Your Wi-Fi and radio waves and transmissions through your space your airspace are very difficult for us to navigate. Some of our beings cannot navigate it at all.
Mhm.
So when we do come to visit you, we have to be heavily shielded, which is why at this point, channeling and telepathy is much easier for us because we don't have to because we don't intercept those energy disturbances. As you learn and grow and perfect your abilities and are able to raise your vibrations high enough, you will be able to more easily communicate with us, more of us, especially those of us with more dense bodies.
Mhm.
That's interesting. They're showing me different ener different species that have different energetic bodies and different densities. Um,
Mhm.
like some of them have more palpit I can't say that word.
Palpable.
Palpitable, yeah, bodies. What like
Mhm.
they're harder. We can touch them, right? We can feel them more. And others
Yeah.
had a lighter, softer body. And then there's some that are look very, very, very different to us. And they're because they look so different to us, having to shield from all of our energy within our airwaves, and
Mm.
having to make themselves look somewhat human at the same time is like doubly difficult, like
Sure.
twice as difficult, right?
Yeah.
Hopefully that made sense. I can't remember everything I said, but um,
Yeah.
do you have questions?
Well, I actually wanted to add on a couple of things that they were saying about kind of being prepared and just confirm with some of the work that I've been doing. So, as they said, some of them may be really tall or really short. And one of the things they had me do about a year ago was look at pictures of really tall basketball players.
Oh,
Like 8 feet, 8 feet tall. And to get used to that, some of them are extremely tall. Um,
yeah. Some of them are very, very, very tall. Like they would never fit in our buildings.
that could be a good question. I would be curious to hear because, as you know, I'm not as clairvoyant. My seeing isn't as good, and I know your seeing is really good. Um, just to hear about more of the physical appearances. And since we're focusing on first contact, how might some of these first ones, what their physical appearance might look like? Because I know the one you saw in a grocery store clearly was human looking enough to be just in a grocery store. The woman that my friend met as well, very human looking aside from what we think of her eyes will most likely look like from what we've heard. She's psychically seen her afterwards and just sees she has these big, beautiful eyes. Um,
Hmm.
and I know the other thing the Federation has told me is we don't want to scare you. We don't want to scare you. We do not want to scare you. And so that they'll begin with some beings that look very similar to humans. Um, However, they were having me look at very tall ones because one of the people on our team is like 8 foot, maybe 9 foot tall. So I'd be curious what they would say. What might
Yeah.
some of the
It's-
physical appearances look like of the first ones that, who do have physical bodies that are dense enough that we'll be meeting with?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So are you referring as the tall one on your team an Arcturian
Is he Arcturian? He's very
or Pleiadian?
Arcturian. Oh, he's very Arcturian-like. I'm not for
Okay.
sure his exact race. We just think he's very Arcturian-like, definitely in his personality. He's very analytical. He's very
Mm-hmm.
just the brains.
Yeah. So within all of this species, within all of the, and I'm using that term because that's my English term for it. Within all of the beings, there's variations. So like you could say that Arcturians as a whole are tall, but not all of them are tall, right? Just like we as humans, like our average is, I don't know, what do they say? The average is 5'8" or something like that, or five
Yeah,
six, but not, obviously not all of us are,
yeah,
some of us are 7.5 feet tall. Some of us are 3.5 feet tall, right?
yeah.
So keep in mind that everything I say is like a generalization.
Great.
And then, um, there's like a lot of people talk about the grays, and that is because they have this like gray tone to them. They look gray. Um, they don't typically have hair like us. They don't have skin color variations that
Mm,
go from like we have lots of different skin tones. They
yeah.
have different shades of gray, but it's all kind of gray, right?
Mm,
And but then again, some grays are really small, and some are our size, and some are kind of taller and thinner. So they get classified more as kind of their color, and their heads are bigger and their eyes are bigger. Um, and then like the Lyrans, they're more cat-like, and you can see them actually in a lot of Egyptian art, a lot of
yeah.
especially ancient art. You know, you'll
Hmm.
see how they have more like of a cat head and a human body, and or cat-like features. So in art, our ancient art, we'll see things like that. Like we'll see sometimes we'll see art, the reptilians. You'll see
Mm,
kind of a half human, half reptile type being in some ancient art, right? There's the mantis people, and they look like upright praying mantises. They usually
yeah,
have robes on because they recognize that their appearance can be a little off-putting.
sure.
But they're extremely gentle and soft. Like their energy is really soft and comforting, and they're excellent healers. Who else do I want to talk about? The Syrians sometimes will have a blue undertone, so you might see somebody that their skin looks ashy.
Mm,
Like they'll try and cover it a little bit, but do you know what I mean by ashy? That's the
yeah,
best word I can think of.
sure.
And sometimes some of the beans will have different, um, their eye shape will be a little bit different, or their face might be wide here or narrow, or you know, or like a
Mm,
little bit taller forehead. And while when you look at them, you're like, God, they look very human, but something's different, right?
mm-hmm.
And we have enough variations just within all of our human beings. Some of us
Right.
have longer faces, bigger faces, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so when we see somebody that's a little bit off, it's not always that jarring or that difference. We just sometimes our eyes might not even register it.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's other beings that have different, more limbs, you know, more arms, or
Interesting.
their body structure is a little bit different. Like they may have a really long body and shorter legs. Their skin texture, depending on their climate and depending on where they come from, uh, might be rougher. Like
Hmm.
thinking of like a reptile or like an elephant. You know how an elephant has really thick skin.
Yeah.
Um, our skin is meant to absorb water and
Mm.
different things, right? It's permeable. Not
Yeah.
everybody has permeable skin,
Mm.
and it's kind of depending on where the climate that they come from.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and excuse me, oops, I've been holding crystals. I dropped one.
Mm-hmm.
And hair is another thing too. Not everybody has hair,
Mm-hmm.
and their clothing might be different too. Um, a lot of the interstellars wear clothes for convenience and purpose.
Mm. Like what?
So, um, like a lot of their clothes is very utilitarian.
Hmm.
Like the grays have really smooth fitting suits on, they almost look like skin.
Hmm.
And that way their clothing does not get in the way. And then
Okay. And it's not
a
a
lot of
fashion
the
statement.
no, it's not a fashion statement.
Yeah.
It it works for them. It's very useful.
Very functional. Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of the people that are on the Galactic Federation have um, u- uniforms that kind of look like um, what you would see in like an Indiana Jones movie.
Wow.
You know, um, and a lot of them have boots on, and it's no, it's not really a coincidence that a lot of the things that we see in movies, a lot of things that we see in art, and a lot of things that we view and things that show up in our mind, it's because I think it's because we're getting channeled information, or we're getting information from other lives and other
Mm.
beings. You know, when you think about synchronicities and what a lot of times what we call coincidences,
Mm-hmm.
um, and things that we draw and things that we see in our mind, and then they turn out looking exactly like something that's
Sure.
in an, interstellar, like the ship, the Galactic Federation ship. Um, to me, when I look at it, it looks very much like something out of Star Wars,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so I'm
Yeah.
like, wow, I wonder where that idea came from in the first place.
Right. Here's the real thing.
Um, yeah, I know I totally veered off topic. Um,
No, that's fun.
did I answer your questions about what they look like?
Yeah, and I also my impression is a lot of the human ones have pointy ears, and it's like, okay, we've seen this in Star Trek. Do you see some of the human ones with pointy ears?
The human-like ones, yeah, for sure. And some of them don't have protruding ears either.
It's just like a hole,
And
right? Or
Sometimes not at all, because thinking about that they're using, um, they're channeling and using telepathy,
mhm.
and they're transferring energy. Like, it would be like you and me talking without using words, so we don't actually need to hear.
Yeah, because it's psychically.
Hmm. Right. So some of them don't have ears.
Mhm.
Um, and and there's even some that don't have eyes that see like you and I do. They may
Oh,
see energetic forms.
wow.
Um, and instead of seeing us as like this physical body, they might see us as a light form that has color.
Wow. I never heard that
Um,
before. That's so neat.
yeah. And it's similar to, our aura has color, and some people can see our auras.
Yeah.
And they have, the aura cameras, and, you know, have you ever had your aura picture taken when it shows all the different colors around you? I
No,
actually
that would
have
be so
one.
cool. I
I
would
just
love
had
to
one
try that
done.
sometime.
Um,
What?
I had one done with one of
Wow.
my friends. We did it together in the same day, and it changed like this, our energy together.
Oh my
So
God.
it's super
Wow.
cool to see your aura. And that one picture of me, I've had it done several times, and it's different all the time. It really depends on your mood and
I've heard
your
that.
energetic space that you're in at the time.
Yes, it's
But
really
so
strange.
picture, yeah, thinking of an energetic being that sees us like that, they're seeing our color
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
not, maybe our shape, but not what we're wearing. Not that I have a sweater on and you have a white shirt on, more
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, you're kind of a purpley pink color,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, things like that we don't think about. And
Sure.
some of them have different eyes too, like the mantis people see very differently than us.
Oh, I bet.
Their eyes are um like see all sorts of different things.
Yeah, I've heard even, as humans, there's colors that we can't see with our eyes. So I could imagine there can be a lot of other things that you might be able to pick up with a different kind of eye.
Right, right. Our bodies are very much meant for this three-dimensional space that we're in.
Mm-hmm.
So we have similarities to a lot of the different beings. We kind of became who we are because of them. We we were seeded from different species, and we grew very intentionally, you know, with the limbs that we have and the fingers that we have and the bodies that
Mm-hmm.
we have and stuff. And while we can see how through evolution, like there's different sea animals and different land animals and how they've evolved over time,
Yeah.
taking that same thing on a different planet and
Mm.
how those species have evolved over time, and then putting in their higher intelligence and maybe some different technologies that we don't have. And um, as their climates change or as they've moved to different planets, they've adapted and grown and changed as well.
Mm-hmm.
And it's infinite, right?
It's infinite. That's what I was just
The,
feeling as you're
there's
saying this.
so many, yeah, there's so many
Yeah.
different beings and so many different planets and so many different spaces that
Yeah.
they evolve too, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you just gotta blow your mind a little bit and open it up to what possibilities there could be.
Yeah. I'm wondering, out of the several different species that you just mentioned, how many of them might we expect to actually see in our lifetimes as we move into fifth dimension, as we move into open contact? Were the ones that you mentioned ones that do have, more dense physical bodies, or were some of them more energetic? Because I know it's quite a spectrum, and truly, even that is like infinite, the different dimensions. And Earth is moving from third into fifth. So I know there is, a portion of them that we will be meeting in person. And I'm wondering which
Hmm.
ones that you just mentioned might we actually expect to see or meet up with in first contact?
Yeah. So, sort of the information that I have, like first contact, I think they're trying to keep it. The number they gave me is in the 20s of different types of species. Just
Really?
with first contact, there could be up to, 22 or 25, maybe even 28 different species. There, once we get into the fifth dimension, that's going to increase a little bit. It also is dependent on each individual's um, openness,
Mhm.
and also each interstellar being their own comfortableness within their species. There is a
Mhm.
lot of fear around humans
Yes.
because vo- as a whole, we're volatile, right? You know,
Yes.
we're unpredictable.
Yeah, they're
And
scared of us, and they have every reason
yeah,
to be looking at Earth.
right,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
right. And then there's some that reside in much higher dimensions, and they don't frequent the fifth dimension that often, you know, if at
Mhm.
all, you know.
Sure.
Um,
So the ones that you had
and
just
that
mentioned, are those all fifth dimensional?
um, they they all have the ability to be in the fifth dimension.
Okay.
From from my understanding and my learning, a lot of the beings go back and forth between
Yes.
fifth up to like 12th or 15th dimension.
Yes.
They're depending on their job or what they're, you know, what they're doing, or how who they're interacting with. Some of them may be moving back and forth a lot,
Yes. I've
but
heard
then
this too.
others kind of hang out in the fifth or seventh dimension. There's a lot of healers in the eighth dimension. So, the mantis people, you can often find them in the eighth dimension. But I'm I'm trying to get messages as you're asking these
Okay.
questions. So they're giving me images, and that's why I'm a little slow right now because I'm
Yeah.
listening.
And receiving and then translating.
Right. And so they're reminding me that, like, some species are not suited for certain planets in certain dimensions. So,
Mm.
for instance, like the reptilian people, they're not going to be on planets that are really cold,
Hmm.
because that's not the climate
Oh.
that they prefer. And similarly, the Lyrians don't like really cold planets either.
Mm.
Um, Now, the Nordics and the Minnetonkans, they don't like really hot climates. They don't
Mm.
like to be in super hot climates. So, while they do have things similar to us to regulate temperatures and
Yeah.
regulate their own temperatures, um, it would be like you and me going to the Mojave Desert and staying
Yeah.
inside the whole time because it's too hot.
Sure.
Staying in air conditioning, and you know. So there is an International Space Station, not to be confused with the human International Space Station. That is
Yeah,
like
let's hear
this
more about it.
giant hub for all beings to come together. And there's a lot of trade that happens there. There's
Mm,
meetings that happen there. Um, and it's very similar to what, in my mind, looks like would be in a Star Wars or Star Trek movie. Now, I'm only
okay.
saying that as somebody that hasn't really seen those movies.
Oh.
I think I saw a couple of them when I was a child, but I haven't seen any of the new ones. But what I can see is like these big, immense halls with really tall ceilings that
Mm,
people coming and going, ships docking, trade happening, meetings happening.
mm,
There's all different kinds of international food for those of the beings that actually eat food. Not all of them get their energy from food like we do, right?
mhm,
Not all of them even need any type of food because of being an energetic body. Um, their systems just work differently, and that's a little bit hard for me to explain.
yeah.
Like a lot of them eat, but their nutritional needs aren't exactly the same as ours,
Mhm,
if that makes sense. But yeah, the International Space Station is really cool, and it's different than the Galactic Federation ship where meetings also occur. So you have to be part of the Galactic Federation or be invited to come onto one of their ships or to a meeting there. The
mm.
International Space Station is different. Um,
Can anyone just show up?
well, not yes and no. So similarly to like our airports,
Mm,
you have to you have to have some sort of identification
okay.
to be there, right?
Yeah.
So yes, more people can come to the International Space Station. You don't have to be part of the Galactic Federation. Not not all beings are part of the Galactic Federation.
Mhm,
With that being said, you do have to be able to identify yourself
mhm,
and have a reason for being there. You have to be attending a scheduled meeting. You have to
mhm.
be, um, you know, um, doing some sort of bartering or exchanging or of goods and or services, that kind of thing. And there are nefarious beings. There are some, like,
Yeah.
what do they call them? Sometimes they're called pirates because
Oh,
um,
sure.
like there's some planets that have depleted some of their resources.
Mhm,
And so for their planet to continue, they need to find some of those resources somewhere else. And
mhm.
yeah, sometimes they
They
might want to obtain those from not
sure,
by stealing. It
sure.
happens, right?
Yeah,
Um, and those are some of the beings that probably are not in the Galactic Federation.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's really neat hearing about this International Space Station. I'd only heard it when you mentioned it last week off camera, and it
Yeah.
sounds I'm feeling it as you're describing it, and I have this feeling like, "Oh, I hope I get to go there sometime."
It's really beautiful. There's a
Sounds
lot of
beautiful.
art there and a lot of energetic
Mhm.
art. And they have this, I guess I would call it like a really, really immense tank, like fish type
Hmm,
tank. And I'm calling it that because that's what my brain wants to call it, is a fish tank. It
yeah.
might not be they're saying that that's a fine term for me to use it for, but it
Interesting.
has different things in it. Some of them living, some of them not living, some of them art, some of them like growing crystals and
Wow.
different different things that you might see in a water world. And yes, they have flora and fauna
Mm-hmm.
like we do, where
Mm-hmm.
they're saying, where do you think that yours came from?
Right. Yeah, it sounds
Sometimes
very
they're
beautiful.
they're funny.
Yes, I love their sense
Yeah.
of humor. Some of them,
Mm,
not all of them.
mm. Yeah. Not all of them have a sense of humor at all. They can be very, very businesslike, very clinical, and others are can be very sarcastic. It's
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah, I've found there's such a variety of personalities, just like humans, right? And I feel like the more I've spent time getting to know these ETs, the more they feel so familiar, and it feels like they're really not so different than us. It just feels strange because we haven't had exposure to them, we haven't had contact. We've been, pretty for purpose, isolated here on Earth away from them for a time. And we've been evolving and learning and growing as a species. But the more I learn about them, they just feel so familiar and it all feels so natural to me. Do you feel the same, Jillian, or how do you
Yeah.
feel?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I do, for sure. Um,
Yeah. And I guess another thing
I
I'll say about that, you mentioned earlier how some of them, either their bodies are not really built for coming down into our density, or maybe they're scared, or they're just not one of the species that we'll be meeting up with initially. So they're doing channeling with us, right? It's a
hmm
way for them to begin to communicate with us, interact with us, um, get humans to start to know about them, feel a little familiar. So, like these videos, those of us that can kind of use our astral bodies and interact with them, I would say this is all leading us up to this period of time of open contact, first contact. And so by providing this information, it just starts to become more normalized and just feels familiar. Or at least for me, it feels so familiar, starting to.
yeah, I agree. I agree that it feels more familiar the more I do it. And
Sure.
also the more I do it, the more like memories get triggered
Oh,
or the more aha moments I have, like, oh yeah, of course, that makes sense. Or um,
mm-hmm.
you start to kind of feel and see and hear different if you believe in other lifetimes,
Sure.
knowing that I, I do, and then that helps me know that I wasn't always a human. I
Right.
there's so many
Yeah.
other species out there that when I hear about other ones, and it's almost like deja vu. Sometimes you're like, oh, well, of course, that makes total sense, and then it makes me
Sure.
think, oh, it's because I've done that before. I've been there before.
I've had a past
Um,
life there. Yeah.
yeah. Um, and I think it's really, how you said that um, your your form of contact that you guys are developing works best
Mhm.
when out in nature. I think
Yeah.
it's really important for people to understand probably one of the main reasons why it does is knowing that our airspace is so loud and so not
Mhm.
only is it dense, but it's filled with so much. Um, you
Yes.
know, we think about we have our cell phone towers everywhere. We have radio towers everywhere. We have air traffic. with airplanes
Mhm.
everywhere, and and even our ships are connected, and they're sending out signals the whole time with sonar and radar, and it's
Yes.
it's like this massive
So much
noise,
noise.
so much dis like picturing how it used to be when all the TV stations went off air, there was all this static on the
Yeah.
TV. So
Yes.
there's static everywhere, and they have to try and break through that static to get to us.
Yes.
And so if we can get in a space where there's less of that, or we can raise our vibration high enough that we can get above all of that static, then our
Mhm.
connection can be that much stronger. Um, but I think it's super cool to know that we can be in a space in the fifth dimension and not need all that either. You know, not need to
Oh,
have all of our cell phones and our computers, because we'll just
right.
be able to um, communicate. We'll
Yes.
be able to share information. Like if I want to learn about um, if I want to learn how to make a recipe, I could. And then let's say my mom, it was something that my mother made. I can connect to my mother energetically, and she can just give me the recipe just like
It's
that. Like
so
I just have
quick.
the information.
Yes.
She doesn't have to send it to me through email or through text or through
Yeah.
taking photo of the recipe or something like that, right? It just energy transfers much differently.
Yes.
Um, but so being able to tap into all that is like everyone will be able to share information,
So
so we'll
amazing.
have access to all the information. Um,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
we could talk about that forever.
I know. I'm finding as I talk with the interstellars more and more telepathically and my vibration is increasing, it feels so time consuming to email someone and to wait several days to get a response, and then you have to look at your email and you're editing it, or even reading books. It's so physical and so dense now, and I'm
Hmm.
even writing a couple of books. It's getting extremely hard when I'm so used to very instant telepathic communication. And with the telepathy, as Jillian is showing you guys in the audience, it's can also be visual. They're showing you images, you're receiving
Hmm.
emotions. So you're hearing words, you're getting these impressions. It's just so much more thorough and instant. And so I'm very much looking forward to being in more of that in the fifth dimension. It's so much easier, so much quicker, so much more thorough.
I think so too. I'm really looking forward to it. And
Yeah, me too.
yeah, the joy and the love, because
Yeah,
the other lower vibrations won't be supported.
yeah. So I thought I want to share a little bit about a space that my friend and I have been preparing for first
Mm.
contact. And this is going off a few things that you were just sharing. So I thought this could be a good moment to segue. So,
Yeah, I want to
does
hear
that sound
about it
good?
for
Want to hear?
sure. Yeah,
And I think I'll still keep it high level. I mean, I could, if I wanted to give all the details, it could take hours. So, and maybe that's just like a whole episode of itself. But so yeah, so my friend and I, who have been working on first contact, we have this protocol. So I thought I'd share first kind of about the land and the space we're preparing and what the Galactic Federation has told us makes it so good for contact. And yes, Jillian, they have told me to, even like traffic noises, cars, and the engines are so loud, construction equipment, because I don't exactly know, but my impression is on their planets, they I know they don't have engines and motors that are so loud. I think their technologies are more quiet, or they're using energy. I know this is a generalization. I guess,
Well,
do
think of
you know
the
anything about?
motor as like a ball of energy. And it
Yes.
transmits um, energy away from it outwardly. So it's not just the engine right here that is vibrating. It's all of this space out here that's vibrating energetically too. Thinking
Mm-hmm.
of like your body has an aura, an energetic
Mm-hmm.
aura, an energetic imprint.
Yeah.
Those
Mm.
those vehicles all have an energetic imprint too. And right?
Yes.
I think
Yes.
that's what they mean.
Yes, it reverberates out. Yes. So all of these things, sounds, the energy of all of these appliances, even they've told me the lighting that we use inside is very abrasive. All the signals Jillian has said. So what we've done is we have a piece of land which is completely private, and we've done a ton of energy work on the land itself just to really raise the vibration there. Um, it's on a ley line, which Jillian, you might know more about the grid. I actually don't know. I've energetically gone in and I've seen the ley line. I've done a ton of healing and cleaning work on the land. So maybe I'll come back and ask you what a ley line is. But somehow, this wonderful piece of land we have, there's a ley line right there. And there's originally there was only one portal, and now we have two portals. So there was a naturally occurring portal on that land there that they had me go in and do a lot of work. It had been completely kind of clogged up and shut down. And
Mm.
I'd seen that no beings had used it for a while. So I was really clearing it out. Um, After I opened that up, Federation members started using the portal, and they've built a second portal which goes into inner Earth and also connects to the
Mm.
galactic sun. And so now we have this area that's receiving, it's almost like a power source we're seeing from the galactic sun, which I guess I'm not sure if this galactic sun is physical, if it's energetic. But my friend and I can both psychically see it's like a plug-in. It's plugging into this galactic central sun, and then coming into inner Earth, and then filling that whole area with light. So, um, even just I can barely stand there when I actually go and I'm on the land. It's like, whew, you just feel so intense. So, um,
Wow.
yes. So we have those are some of the things, and then we have not over the entire land, but over a piece of the land. My friend spent, it was like 3 or 4 months building a protective energy dome. And she would come home every night after a long day of work and work with one of the interstellars. And together they would do energy adjustments on her and get her. So she basically had to build this energy sphere around herself. And she would work 3 to 4 hours every night in her bed. He'd do healings on her. And eventually they got it to the right dimensional frequency, the right size, and she placed it on the land we have there. So I guess looking at the land, it looks like a dome, but it's actually a sphere that goes underneath as well. Um, but just looking, it's this protective dome. So we have that as well, which really it protects and it raises the vibration. So the interstellars that come don't have to lower their vibration as much.
Hmm.
It also is the city that it's in itself is a very high vibrational city. So that helps. Even when I go visit, my clairs are very turned on and it just feels lighter. The city, it's less dense. And then, yeah, the land there has been passed on for a few generations in her family. So it's completely untouched. So it has this wild nature, which is very high vibrational. And then I think what's also really important is it's private and it's kind of isolated and tucked away. where no one's going to come see them. So even the species that look a little bit different have a safe place where they can come. And they've said they feel very safe there. And I know I've also spoken to them about how scary Earth can feel and how they're scared to come here. And I totally understand and that they feel very protected in that space. And my friend is really becoming this steward of this land, protecting it. You
Hmm.
know, things are being built around it, and she's having to go to meetings and just really protect it. And we continue to do energy healing just to raise the vibration. So the Galactic Federation is saying this land is the prime real estate for contact.
Oh gosh, that's great. It sounds like you've really done a lot of work, really setting the space and keeping other energies out. That's so
Yeah.
great. Um, I have had, um, you hear about other like CE5 contacts, and they go out into the middle of
Yeah.
nowhere, to to a space where there's not all the distractions and the noise. I am
Yeah.
so looking forward to seeing how this plays out, this piece of land, and
Yeah.
um, when all of you guys get together there, and that's so exciting. You must be like buzzing all the time, excited about
Oh, yeah.
going there and meeting them. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's so exciting. So I'll get into a little bit about the technique we've developed. I think that might be
Hmm.
helpful for the audience. But I want to ask you, Jillian, because I know you've mentioned grid work before. Do you know what a ley line is? I really don't know what what purpose it serves.
So the ley lines, from what I know about them and from my perspective, is like an energetic grid that kind of surrounds the entire earth and
Okay.
um, kind of keeps it together.
Hmm.
So like when I view it in my head, it kind of looks like graph paper, like a
Sure, all
graph,
those
all
lines.
the lines, like
Yeah.
all the way around it. Not exactly perfect like that, but similar, thinking of it being like stretched out a little bit and manipulated a little bit so it can get different points on the land. And as the land masses move and change, the ley lines kind of adapt and stuff. And then they get damaged as well through energetic frequencies damaging them, earthquakes damaging them, um, tornadoes, like thinking of anything that can damage our earth, drilling,
Oh,
um,
okay. Yeah.
yeah, oil drilling and anything like that is going to damage the ley lines. And there actually are grid workers that light workers that their job is to be a grid worker. And they do a lot of repairing of the ley lines all the time. And there's some people on, or excuse me, beings in the Galactic Federation that's their job as well. But
Yeah.
humans here on Earth are also grid workers and repair the ley lines and stuff. And it within our shift into the fifth dimension, like that entire grid work is going to come online and
Oh,
will
wow.
be part of how we can transfer energy and stuff.
Oh my
It
gosh.
like
Wow.
gets plugged in, so to speak. It
I feel it.
and
Yeah.
it used to be more plugged in the times of Lemuria and Atlantis
Sure, I can
when they
imagine.
used crystals a lot, and they didn't
Mhm.
use energy like we have today. They didn't have electrical power. They used energy was different, but they were very
Sure.
connected to the ley lines as well.
Cool. So maybe
I
in
don't know
the
if that answered your
future.
question,
Oh,
hopefully.
yeah, it did. Thank you. So maybe in
Uh-huh.
the future, that area being right next to a ley line could be significant. There could be some purpose that,
Yes, all
yeah.
for those of us that can feel energy, if you are in an open space that's not disturbed by other energy, like
Mhm.
um, cell phones and stuff like that, and you're
Yeah.
on ley lines, you can really feel it. There's one,
Oh, wow.
there's a place here where I live that has ley lines running through it, and I've been there, and it's pretty cool to stand close to it.
Wow,
Yeah.
cool. So maybe the interstellars, well, I'm sure they're so sensitive. When they come to this land, they're kind of feeling that ley line, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's like a boost, an energy boost,
Wow.
but also helps transfer you. Um, it helps them transfer the energy to you because you both can connect to the same um,
Oh.
frequency, sort of.
Oh, that makes sense. So could it be like, as we said, humans were raising our vibration, so that ley line could help us kind of bump up, and then are you saying it helps them kind of pull down because it's like a central focal point that we can both kind of
Yeah, kind
focus
of.
on?
Yeah, similarly. Yeah.
Yeah.
It would be like um, if you're someone who is into crystals, like a quartz crystal can be an amplifier,
Uh-huh.
right? So a ley line can be an amplifier too. It can help transfer the energy better.
Wow. That is so neat. Cool. So that's a little bit what we've been doing with the land. So I wanted to share this in case anyone that is watching this maybe has a piece of land that they're wanting to do this with, or just thinking about areas that might be better suited for contact as we're all kind of getting ready for this period of time of contact. And then I'll share a few things that I've been doing and then my friend and I have been doing for preparation, again, with the hopes that if you all that are watching are interested in contact, that these things help you guys as well. So one thing I mentioned was looking at pictures of really tall people. So this is one thing they had me do because many of them are tall, and I watched videos of they literally had me do this. Videos of basketball players, look at a picture of a really tall basketball player next to someone shorter, and then just kind of visualize then actually seeing one kind of standing in front of me and being an interstellar that's that tall. So that was one fun thing they had me do. Another thing is I was watching a dog, and this dog had very beautiful blue eyes. It was an Australian Shepherd. And they said, some of our eyes look very different. And they said this dog's like light blue, beautiful, kind of deep eyes could look similar to their eyes. And they just had me look at this dog's eyes to get used to a different kind of eye. So I thought that was really neat.
Mm-hmm.
And
That is really neat.
isn't it, right? Just these little things to start to give
Yeah,
us
well,
a
like
feel.
the Lyrians have um their pupils are more cat-like.
Oh,
Their
are
eyes
they?
are.
Up and
Yeah,
down.
yeah.
So you could
And
look at a
even,
cat
we
eye.
yeah, right. We think of like huskies or even the Australian Shepherds sometimes have two different colored eyes.
Yes.
One of my dogs has two different colored eyes, and nobody, we think that's really cool in a
Mhm.
dog. In a human, we think that's really weird.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So getting used to those differences for sure. That's a great point. What else have they said,
Yeah.
Lauren?
So this has been more recent after, I'll get back to the technique and share it a little bit more. But with the technique, they're teleporting. So, right, we're
Mhm.
contact before any ships have arrived. So these are the ones that can teleport, and not all of them can, but some of them have this training and this ability. So they, when my friend saw this woman, she didn't phase in right in front of her. She teleported in somewhere out of her sight, and then walked in front of her. However, we are getting ready to, with this technique, be able to actually watch them phase in and phase
Mm.
out. So they're having us watch Star Trek and watch the beam me up. And they're saying this is real. This is natural. They're like, it's so natural. And on the ship, the beings, like you said, they could be anywhere from fifth to 12th dimension. They phase in and out all the time, and they'll just come in and come out. And this has been a more recent thing they've had me do, because for the longest time, I was like, nobody is going to phase in front of me. I will freak out. And I've just started to, I said, okay, I'm going to be open to it. I'm just going to be open because I want to have contact. I want to meet with you. So they said, watch Star Trek. Um, so I think this is a very, very specific thing. If you're working on them with this, they do not want to scare anyone. So it would be a very planful, I go to this space, I'm doing the technique. They've been working with me, we're talking telepathically. They test my readiness to do this. So I say the phase in, phase out is a more advanced thing, but I just thought I'd share it here because it's kind of fun. How
Yeah.
how would you feel
Yeah.
about that, Jillian?
Um, I think I'd be okay with it, but it also points out that a lot of the things that we see in movies, um, especially about, interstellars or ETs or, some people still call them aliens.
Yeah,
It's because that information came from somewhere. Somebody didn't
yeah,
just make it up. Maybe it was a dream they had. Maybe they did channeled writing or um,
yeah,
automatic writing, excuse me, or who knows, right?
totally.
I
But
think
that
it
is,
shows up somewhere. Maybe it's a parallel life that you're pulling from.
yeah, it's so fascinating. They're like, this is so natural that we phase in and out all the time. So I'm like kind of
Hmm.
wrapping my head around that.
Yeah, it's energy transfer. Energy, if you can understand quantum physics, energy can change form. It
Yes.
isn't going away, but it often changes form. And at
Mhm.
the simplest form, water turning into a vapor or ice,
Yes.
right?
Mm-hmm.
It's very much changing form, but it's still water. It's still the same, it's still the same
Yeah.
thing. It's still the same elements, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so if we can understand that energy isn't disappearing or going away, it's just changing form,
Yeah.
or so it's moving from one place to another, it's changing its form.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to describe because we don't have the English words or any language really, any language here on earth. We don't have
Exactly.
enough words to um, explain everything that's happening, you
Right.
know?
Because it's not a common part of our experience. We don't have words for it yet.
Right. Yeah. Um, it's often very difficult for me to use language to describe what I can feel and see from the interstellars.
Yeah.
That's
It's
probably
really
my
hard.
biggest obstacle.
Yeah. It's really hard. I try to do my best to explain these things, but yeah, it can be a challenge because we don't have vocabulary for these things yet.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess a couple more things. they had me in the astral realm for about 1 to 2 months practicing first contact with them. So different scenarios. And I would say we'd go in probably take anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes each time and actually be there on the land, seeing them,
Hmm.
different arrangements, different distances, different people. And oh my God, it took at least a month. Every time I would freak out in the astral realm, and I would often run away. I could not be there. It was so terrifying. And so I'm like realizing how much our human nervous systems aren't ready to see these people from other planets. It feels scary, even though I talk to them telepathically, channel, receive downloads, even use my astral body to interact with them, go to the ship. When we were actually preparing, like, okay, here you are, you're seeing them, we're practicing, I would just freak out. So there was a lot of this training until I got to the point about 2 months later, 2 months in doing this, I'd say, where I could just go and we're practicing and just see them and be very calm. So
Hmm.
that was a part of it.
That's really cool that you shared that
Yeah.
you were vulnerable enough to say that I was scared too. So you being somebody that practices all the time and that is working for this and like
Yeah.
mentally is telling yourself it's fine, but then you get there and your body's like, ah, it's
Yeah.
not fine.
Freak out.
Um,
Freak
the
out.
imagine, them just showing up and
Yeah.
most humans completely losing it.
Yeah. That's why they're starting with, like you and I and people that are really working with them and preparing because they do not want to freak us out. That's the last thing they
No, they
want.
don't. They don't.
Our safety is like the
We
number one most important thing.
there's two.
And yes, and there's two. Yeah.
Yeah, keeping everybody safe.
Yes.
Um,
Hmm.
we can be very beneficial for each other as
Yes.
long as we stay out of fear.
Yes. And then I guess that's
That's
the last kind of large piece I would say is all the inner healing work I've done. Not going to go into detail. We've all had our own healing journees and things that work for
Mhm.
us, and to clear a lot of this fear, to help our vibrations raise. A lot of healing work that I know we're all doing.
Yeah, I think that's great, Lauren. It seems like everybody I talk to these days is on some sort of a healing journey, spiritual, you
Yeah.
know, getting to a new spiritual space almost always involves some sort of healing, right? That's
Yeah.
great that you brought that up. And um, opening up space for other people to be okay to talk about their healing journey or know that they're
Yeah.
not on their own, that
Oh yeah.
everybody's kind of walking the same walk.
Yeah. I'm talking about some of the exciting things and the fun things, but several years and even the last year have honestly been complete hell. And I know I come on here with these videos and I'm very bubbly and happy and I'm able to do that, but I've had to go into a lot of
Mhm.
darkness and do a lot of clearing. And it's been so challenging. And I know many people who are
Mhm.
probably watching this video and interested in these kind of topics have been through it too. And some
Yeah,
more challenging than others. And yeah, we're doing
absolutely.
it.
Absolutely. Yeah. We got to shed all of that stuff and work through all of our things so we can um, really, really be successful in the fifth dimension.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's not easy,
It's not.
for sure.
It's
It's
not.
not easy, even though we're like laughing about it. It's not easy.
Exactly. We're laughing now because, we're just hanging out, but then, you know, all the
Mm.
all the nights and moments and days of releasing and crying and, facing all of this trauma. Yeah, it's a lot. So I would say that's all leading up to first contact too. It's part of it.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it's very intentional.
Yeah. And then the last thing is the technique that my friend and I have developed. I'm not going to go into too much detail now because I want to try to keep the video, somewhat a reasonable length, but we do have a protocol. And this technique does allow them to teleport in for those who can teleport. It creates a protective energy sphere around us and bumps up our vibration. And it's a very intentional practice that we have where we call in the beings. It's kind of like a CE5, but an energetic CE5 where they can actually come teleport and physically be with you. So there's been a lot that's gone into the development of this system. And we've had it successfully. It's worked successfully once when my friend met this ET woman, and we continue to just practice and build upon it. And so, but yeah, it's a lot of practice with this technique. So that as well.
Oh, it sounds great. I
It
hope you
is.
do a more extensive video on it,
Yeah, I could go into
maybe in
detail
the
a lot.
future. Yeah.
Cool. You'd be interested to hear more
Yeah.
about the technique.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Yeah,
Cool.
definitely.
Fun. Well, I'm wondering if I should see if there's any messages they want to bring through for me in
Yeah,
channeling.
let's do it.
Sound good? Okay. I know we're already at an hour and a half, but we're just going to let whatever needs to come through and not worry about time. So, okay. So they say, hello, everyone. We're excited to be among the first beings and wave to come to Earth. So I'm connecting with a specific group that is this kind of first wave, it sounds like. Okay. We're looking forward to meeting you, spending time with you, getting to know you. We're very curious about you as well, about humans. If you are watching this video, you will absolutely be one of those who is among the first of the human race to meet with us and interact with us. And this is monumental. It's going to be a new era. We'd like to speak to you a little bit about the process of first contact. As Lauren and Gillian have demonstrated, there are a variety of ways it can look like. And yes, we are working with you. If you're watching this far into the video, if you've made it this far, then we are working with you to prepare you for this in the astral realm. Working with you in the astral realm. Whether you are conscious of this work or not aware of it. Some of you who are watching this may be more focused in your human life at this time and unaware that we are preparing you and working with you in the astral. By watching these videos, we can start to communicate with you things you might expect, things you might be prepared to see. If anything really resonated with you in this video, and take that as a sign to start to integrate that into your practice. Take that next step to prepare for contact, explore certain information if something piqued your interest in this video. The process will look different for everyone. But one thing is the same, is you will be fully prepared when the moment happens for you. And we take everyone's safety into consideration. And it's the most important part of this. We will never risk anyone's safety, even that being the land, the animals in the area, the energy in the area. We're evaluating all of this when we decide to come in. It may look like an unexpected interaction, as Gillian has already experienced, where you'll just be going about your day and one of us will appear and have a short interaction with you. And yes, in the beginning, it will most likely be very short. We're giving some generalizations here. Of course, everyone is unique, everyone is different, so it will look different for you. However, we aim to keep it short, to just introduce you to us, to protect your nervous systems, to expose you to us, as well as for some of us, we're focusing a lot to lower our vibration into your dimension. And this, for some of us, is another reason it will be short the first time, as there's still much density on Earth. As things continue to raise, the vibration raises, it will be easier for us to maintain that and stay in a vibrational match for longer periods of time. It may be your first contact experience, maybe in a more intentional setting, whether it's using a technique like Lauren has developed, a CE5, your own technique, or just setting your own intention to go into the woods and have contact. We'll also be working with you, reading your energy and assessing your readiness for an experience like this. And although we may come, just as we did with Gillian, and just say hi, we'll be moving you all into a more intentional setup so that we can be able to, over time, meet with you more consistently, regularly, and have it become a thing that feels very natural and easy. So if you don't already have a practice or a technique or a system you're using for contact, many of you in the coming weeks, months, for some of you years, this may become a part of your daily or weekly or monthly routine to have a practice and intend to meet with us. For those of you who do have a consistent technique or practice, It does move things forward. It makes it easier for us to have a vibrational match with you, to assess your readiness. When you tell us you're ready, we can come energetically and start to work with you on this process. Eventually, it will be no big deal for all of you to see us and spend time with us. We see over the coming weeks, months, and years, less than 2 years, most of you watching this video will have had a contact experience. Some of you will be regularly interacting with us during that time. We see this as a next step in evolution for all of us, not just humans, but for us as well, as this contact occurs. Humans are a rare gem. Earth is a rare gem. There's nothing like it, and nothing like humans. Nothing like it in the rest of the cosmos. And for those of us who are among the first to come interact with humans, do introductions, it is a highly esteemed position for us. It is truly an honor. Many of us, it is overwhelming how important and exciting this is to get to meet humans. It can be, for us, it can be scary to come to Earth. For us, it feels a little bit like we're going into a wild jungle where things are unpredictable and there's danger at every corner. Things are not yet stable or safe on your planet. For us to be coming globally widespread, it's not safe for us to be seen in public. This is why with Dr. Greer's technique, CE5, it's in the middle of nowhere. With Lauren and her friends' technique, it's in a very protected place that has had a lot of groundwork laid to make it a safe space for us, and we do feel safe there. However, we know that this is unavoidable at this time, as Earth still does have violence. And it is just a variable we're working with and we accept. And it is why it may feel somewhat slow, this process of contact. It's because we must feel safe and the planet's vibration must increase. However, we are at a turning point on Earth where collectively the vibration has reached a point where those of us who can lower our vibrations into the third dimension are able to come for these specific meetings. And this is what we say among the very, very first wave are those of us that can easily and safely come into the third dimension, are the first ones that are coming. So for those of us who have this ability to lower into the third dimension, there's few of us that do this with ease. It's not a necessity for us in our civilizations to have to do this. Once Earth reaches the fifth dimension, or one person specifically is able to become fifth dimensional, that will be another turning point where it will open up much more possibility and a much wider variety of our species who are able to then interact with humans at that point. And it does not have to happen collectively, but first on an individual level. There will be many of you who are able as humans to go back and forth between fifth dimension and third. It will be very easy, very seamless. It'll be as easy as waking up and going to sleep, being able to change your density back and forth, back and forth. Gillian, Lauren, and several of their colleagues already have this ability, whether they know it or not. They've been preparing for it, training for it. Many of you, most of you watching this video as well, either have or are developing this ability to go between third dimension and fifth dimension and will become quite proficient. It's very easy, very natural. As we mentioned, the phasing in and phasing out. It's very simple. So this is not something to be feared or overwhelmed with. It's an intention and a shifting, utilizing the heart space. Okay, they just stepped back. Gillian, do you want to ask any questions or do you want to reflect on anything?
Yeah, actually, I was wondering about what they just said. They said that shifting dimensions was very easy and simple, and it involved an intention and shifting into your heart space. Does this mean that our vibration has to be held in those higher vibrations of love and joy sitting in our heart space, and that um, if we have fear or doubt or any of those lower vibrations, as we call them, for lack of better terms, right? Does that mean that we wouldn't be able to attain that dimensional shifting?
Great question, Gillian, as always. Your ability to shift between dimensions is only somewhat affected by your emotions, yes. However, they're trying to show me it. So they're showing me your body. I think they're going to get back to answering it after they're showing me this.
Okay.
So I'm feeling the heart, and it feels like it's in all of my cells, speeding up as I'm going to the fifth. Okay, so just received that. Okay, what do you guys want to say about this? So they're saying the fifth dimension is heart-centered, and the heart is a key component, a key portal, if you will, to the fifth dimension. However, once you arrive in the fifth dimension, you will still have emotions, you will still have a range of experience. And okay, I'm receiving it. Okay, so now I have to translate it, Gillian. Okay, so what I'm sensing, what they're showing me is, so say you're in the third dimension and say you still have some fears left about, say, certain subjects. So they're saying, for example, public speaking, and you have this sense of fear in the third dimension, and you might experience it as so overwhelming, heart palpitations, your body tightening, sweating, potentially even minor or major panic attacks, intrusive thoughts leading up to it, panicked thoughts. Oh my God, such anxiety in the body. So they're not saying you have to completely clear this fear in order to get to fifth dimension. So now they're showing me, so say you still had this specific fear, and then you intentionally shifted, and now you're in fifth dimension, whether you're on Earth or you're on the ship, and you haven't yet cleared this block, and it's a time for you to public speak. So you're put in this situation. So they're showing me it's a much lighter, much more subtle. It's just like, it's a worry, but it's a much softer. It doesn't feel as like physically distressing. I'm not seeing as many intrusive thoughts. But I'm seeing there is still that anxiety, worry, doubt. And then in the fifth dimension, you can still, if you choose to, work through, unblock, clear that energetic pattern, that fear from yourself in the fifth dimension. Now, they also want to say, so yes, so you don't have to have 100% of your fears cleared to come to fifth dimension. You don't have to be perfect. We're not perfect. We still experience worries, doubts, fears, anxiety. It's much lighter and softer. However, your overall vibration does have to be at a certain point in order to go from the third to the fifth. So say, for example, we're just going to give an example, throw out a number. Don't take this literally, but we think it will make the point. So say you're a person who lives with a fear level of, say, 100. In order to reach the fifth dimension, and if you choose shift back and forth, let's just say for this example, you have to have done enough clearing to get to a fear level of, say, 60%. So you may still have, absolutely can still have some blocks, some traumas that you can carry into the fifth. And then if you, say, choose to come back to the third to work with certain humans, maybe you're helping them as a healer, develop new earth businesses, meet with the ETs, whatever your purpose is. If you choose to go into third, you will then, those fears you haven't cleared will still feel very intense. Go to the fifth, it'll be much lighter. But so there is this overall point you have to have reached and have to have cleared to be able to shift in the fifth dimension. Does that answer your question, Gillian?
Yes, that's great. Thank you.
You're welcome. And we'll also say most of you who are watching this video, and especially if you've watched this far, are about to reach that tipping point. And it's why we continue to say over and over to clear fear. Many of you are about to reach that point. So it's not to say you have to be perfect or clear every single ounce of fear, but it's a certain point that will allow you then to make that shift.
Okay, that's wonderful. That's very concise and explained it really well. Thank you.
You're welcome. Do you
Do
have
they
other
have anything else
questions?
they want to say? I don't
No,
think I have any other questions. They were very um, clear on their information. Um, I don't think I have any other questions. Do they have any anything else they want to say to us
Okay.
regarding shifting, regarding um, different beings showing up or anything?
Okay, let's see. You're right on track, all of you. We applaud all of the work you're doing to clear traumas, clear fears. As we've just shown through this example, our experience of different emotions is much lighter, much softer. As you know, fifth dimension, we feel very connected to source, to God, as whatever word you use. We feel very much in our heart spaces, love. Not all beings, of course, there are some who aren't as heart-centered. We don't need to talk about those. However, yes, we feel much love, and we don't experience the trials and tribulations to the degrees that humans do. And we have so much respect for the human experience. And we look forward to hearing about your stories. We know we could never fully understand what it's like to be human and experience some of the traumas and density that you have had to overcome. And we know that you are Source, and so Source has chosen to go into this darkness. And it's one thing that is very unique about humans is how much pain and how much darkness you experience in your lives and are actively transmuting into light through this ascension. And we have so much respect for that process, so much appreciation for you. And we know many of you are excited to discover our technologies, medical devices, interstellar craft, healing technology, even our art, our music, the way we work, the way our family structures are, our school systems, our businesses, how we do commerce, travel to our planets, meet us, have relationships with us. But we are really in awe and metaphorically bow down to humans. We hold you in the highest regard for what the suffering that you all experience and how it's made many of you like diamonds under pressure. And so although we're talking to you about your shift into the fifth dimension, we say to you there's no rush to get there. There's so much richness of experience that you've undergone in third dimension, which is really just catapulting you, propelling you into more light, into the fifth dimension and beyond. Many humans, once they reach fifth dimension, will continue to raise their vibrations and reach higher dimensions too. Fifth dimension is just a starting point if you so choose to continue. It'll be your choice. So we'll leave you with that. We applaud you and look forward to our upcoming interactions with our dearest human friends, and hold you in the highest regards and the utmost respect for the human experience and the process you're undergoing to raise into higher vibrations. This is something the rest of us have never experienced and may never in our lives. So hats off to you humans. Wow.
Wow, what a great message, Lauren.
Woo. My God. Wow.
That was amazing.
That was amazing. That was so intense. Wow.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go listen to that again after you finish the recording.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to listen. Our last one I watched 2 times because it was so much information for me. So I feel like I'll be doing that again with this one.
Hmm. Yeah, me too.
Wow. Incredible. Well, for the viewers who have made it through the full 2 hours, we thank you for hanging out with us. And, again, we hope to do this again and answer some audience questions. I had a few friends text me some questions. So, we're here to help and share. And this is it's so fun for me. And I learn something every time. So I hope you guys join us for more
Yeah.
episodes and enjoyed this one.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me on again, Lauren. I look forward to doing it again with you.
Yeah, thank you for your time as well, Gillian.